if you're struggling as a software developer, that's the most important question you can ask yourself if you really want to change and you really want to heal and you want to be a healthy software developer. Can you admit that your career has become unmanageable? Listen, I got to get real with you here. You tell me all the time how much you love this channel, how real I am, how much I've helped you. But I got to have a real heart-to-heart with you today, because here's the problem. Some of the comments you're leaving on this channel, I know that you're frustrated and I know that you want help, but I also see that you are resistant to help. Meaning, I'm telling you some of the things you need to do, and you're hearing them from not just me, but from other people online, probably people in your life, and you're staying stuck. And so today I want to talk to you a little bit about whether you might be miserable because you actually have become comfortable in that place. Now, I know that sounds kind of crazy, but I'm not saying this to be critical to you. I hope you know that. I'm saying this because I've went through the exact same thing, but I can't really pull you out of it and really help you unless you acknowledge that you have a problem and unless you actually want help and are ready for change. You know, in my life, it wasn't until the circumstances in my life were so painful that I almost had no option than to really make a change that I actually did something about it. And unfortunately, because I waited so long, by the time I really did decide to get help and did decide to change, the difficult circumstances I found myself in were so much harder, honestly, than they could have been. And that's what I don't want to see happen to you. I see programmer after programmer after programmer burn out, get angry, lose their marriage, lose their health. And you don't have to be a statistic. You don't have to be one of these people. Even if you are in the middle of serious burnout right now, or just serious angst about the industry and where it's headed and what to do in your career, there is hope for you. There are things you can do. I'm going to be talking to you a lot this year on the channel about ways that you can actually get help and move forward. But in this episode today, I'm going to challenge you a little bit by having some real talk with you about what your options are in the face of the serious problems we face today in the industry. There are real problems with management and leadership at many companies that are not going to change for possibly the lifetime of your career, or at least in any short period of time. Agile is probably not going to really be done properly at some point. And, you know, if there's anything I've experienced in my career, it's even if you find a great way for people to work together, everybody has different motives. Everybody has different incentives. Now, I don't say this again. I know I've made a lot of videos, a lot of these trying to educate you on better ways to look at agile development and better ways to work together. And so you might be hearing me right now going, man, why bother telling us this stuff if it's impossible? But hear me here. I really hope you hear me. There are stages you go through in your career. I talked about this in the career guide that you can get in the description if you haven't already. But, you know, all of us enter the workforce like I did, 27 years ago with no skills in the field. And we have to work probably for a company for a while to learn how to program and get decent at our job. But eventually, if we stay stuck at just being a programmer and that's our identity, and we refuse to challenge ourselves with anything different, then all the problems that we have in our career, they partially, and I know you don't want to hear this, they're partially our fault. I kept myself at a certain ceiling of income, at a certain ceiling of influence, at a certain ceiling of options for me when I so strongly identified as a programmer that I wasn't willing to make any changes. So I'm going to share with you today 5 ways that we in the software industry, I think as programmers, keep ourselves stuck in this place where we're miserable. We don't feel like we have any options. And I want you to really, really think about whether is it worth it for all the peer pressure and the things I'm going to talk about in a minute here. Is that worth it if on the other side of maybe breaking out of some of these things I'm going to talk with you about today might be, having a relationship with your girlfriend, boyfriend, wife, husband that you actually enjoy and they actually enjoy your company, or actually having the prospect of truly having control over your career, really making a difference, not fearing the future and your financial situation because you've become a slave to a corporation in a way that you're just crippled and you can't stick up for yourself. So let me share these things with you today, but I just want to, emphasize again, I don't say any of this stuff because I think I'm better than you. I don't say any of this stuff because I want to create a feeling of fear. That's the last thing I want to do. But I have to be honest with you, because if you don't accept some of these truths that I'm going to do my best to outline today, you can't really change and really going to be stuck in a sort of traumatized state where the industry has traumatized you, it's beat you down, and you feel completely unempowered to do anything. So the first thing that I think keeps us stuck in misery as programmers and prevents us from moving forward is tribalism. Simplest way to think about this is programmers are a tribe. Doesn't it feel good when you first get this job and suddenly, I'm part of a group. There's other people. They bring you into it. All the inside jokes, all the fun things that only we as programmers know, we get to be a part of that. And that's a beautiful and great thing. But to a point. At some point, if that becomes your identity, where being a programmer is not all you are in your life, but you're so wrapped up in the comfort that you felt by first finding that group of programmers, it can really screw you over. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Some of the comments some of you leave where you question my credentials, you question, wow, after 27 years of experience, you better be programming a lot. Otherwise, I'm not going to listen to you. Or basically, well, gosh, you make YouTube videos now, so you probably aren't, spending enough time writing code. So, basically your opinion doesn't mean anything. I mean, that's such a load of crap. Again, I don't care. Those people don't want help. They're just looking for excuses, and they're just projecting their frustration with their own job on me. But if you personally think about your future and things that you could do, and you worry too much, like I have in my life, about whether you're going to feel like other programmers in the community feel like you're letting them down, or you're stepping outside the group, or you're going to give up all your technical skills. These are the things, these insidious little messages that we tell each other that we think are helpful, but they're not. When you're starting out, yes, you want to acquire some skills. Do you want to have a Scrum Master who's never written code? Probably not. However, if somebody's been coding for 5 to 10 years and they feel like their journey forward is to start a company or to help people in some way, let them do it. Because here's the thing, you need to give yourself that same permission. If you've gotten to a point where you have more to offer than just programming, I think one of the biggest things that holds us back, and I know we don't want to admit it, but I'm being totally honest with you here, is we're worried what other programmers are going to say. They're going to think we're out of touch. Look at like David Heinemeier Hansson and the stuff he talked about with TypeScript this year. I mean, was what he said out of touch? On some levels, but look at the history of his career. Look at how much he's brought to the software industry. Again, if you're younger and you aren't real familiar with him, you may not know. But all of us have had a career where we spent a lot of time doing stuff, and we've really made a lot of progress and learned a lot of skills, but we don't have to just keep shouldering that burden forever as some sort of like, badge that like we're not allowed to take off because I'm a programmer and I'll always be a programmer. And if I don't call myself a programmer, or if I choose to go a different direction, I'm betraying the development community. I think that's BS. It's just something that we use as an excuse or other people use to control us. The second thing we do that keeps us miserable, and I sometimes wonder, do we do this because it's comfortable, is we avoid responsibility. Honestly, I'm Gen X, and in my generation, this sort of slacker persona, which wasn't new, but man, it got popular. I mean, you think of Kurt Cobain, Reality Bites, all the stuff that was on TV, all the different music at that time, being outside the normal society and, basically not really caring, not really giving an F, basically, was super popular. And it's just as popular today in the programming community. I think, if you've ever been part of a software development team that's mostly men, which most of them are, and I don't want to say this is just groups with men in it. Women can be like this too. Trust me, I've worked with women who fall into the same stereotype. We kind of love to just joke around about how, I pulled this thing off so I don't have to do that. And basically, well, a good programmer is a lazy programmer. You've heard that trope. Again, I don't want to get into that because I don't really agree with it, but not for maybe the reason that you'd think. But at the end of the day, if you're blaming everybody else, the management is the reason my career is screwed up, or, my wife treats me like shit at home. And so when I come home, I have nothing that I have to look forward to. So I got to just work all the time, or, my kids don't respect me, or I can't find a girlfriend, or I can't make enough money, whatever the excuse is. At the end of the day, yes, people can do things that make our situation difficult, but we have a responsibility to do something about it. And one of the biggest things that I would love to see happen more in our industry is more of you stepping up and becoming managers. Now, here's the thing. Doing the work to talk to other developers who are younger than you and help them understand things that you already know and have to deal with their resistance, that sounds like a pain in the ass to some people, doesn't it? But here's the thing. That's taking responsibility, not just for yourself, but for the software industry. So I'm not saying everyone out there or that you specifically need to become a manager, but I just want to challenge you a little bit in that, I coach a lot of people, and some of the people I coach, the more I talk to them, they realize they actually would be the manager that they wish they had to other people. But to do that, they have to divorce themselves a little bit from the identity they've always had as a programmer. And they also have to step up and take some responsibility in some ways that they never have before. The third thing that we're doing to keep us stuck, and basically, I question if we enjoy the misery because of how we don't move forward in our careers with respect to programming, is we just give in to the fear. There are so many things to be scared of in the world right now. COVID was a huge deal. AI, I did a whole video on that and how ridiculous that is. Endless things. Natural disasters, the economy falling apart, war. I don't have to tell you. There's media companies that are profiting off of your fear. But here's the thing. You can't move forward in your career and actually grow unless you can learn to push through fear. One thing I heard from a Christian, I think it was a pastor that I really look up to in a podcast, was, you don't actually have courage going into a hard situation. You get the courage after you get through it. Meaning, if I'm about to have a really difficult conversation with, let's say, my boss who's been pushing me to work overtime, and I'm just sick of it, and I know it's not right, it's not fair, it's not what I signed up for, I have to take a chance to confront him or her and know that there are consequences potentially if they don't see it my way, but I have to do it anyway. And that's the only way that I've got a chance of fixing that situation, is by getting the other person to respect my boundaries. Now, hear me. I'm not telling you that you specifically, I don't know your situation, that you should stand up to your manager in the way I'm describing. I don't know. Remember, I coach people, and a lot of coaching is I have to understand their context. I'd have to know you specifically a lot more about the relationship between you and your manager. But my point is, I hope you get me here. You can't get free of some of these things unless you're willing to face the fear that you're up against. And if that's the fear of quitting a job that you've been in for 10 years because your skills, you're worried they're not going to allow you to work in the marketplace, so then you don't even do anything about it, you're not facing your fear. If there's a promotion that you want and you think about it all the time, but you just don't see the support in the company, and you're not willing to quit and get that promotion or go to school or get a certification, do anything, you're giving in to the fear. So, I know this is hard stuff. I'm not trying to trivialize this. Believe me, the amount of fear that I'm up against every day, I'll get into this in other videos, by being on YouTube and trying to help you. This is not easy for me. This isn't about me, so I'm not going to get into that. But I just want to encourage you, if you don't want to be stuck and you don't want to be miserable, get past that part of you that just says, there's nothing I can do, and get comfortable with pushing into the things that you fear. Because the only way that you're going to really change your circumstance, the only way that you're going to, accomplish the things that you want, find the people that you want to work with, start the company that you want to work with, it's never going to look safe to you. And, when we work a 9-to-5 job or just a 40-hour a week, at best more like 60 to 80, depending on how you are as a programmer. But when we work a job for a big corporation, they get us hooked on that predictable flow of an income coming in every 2 weeks. And we start to get houses and all these things that are based on it. And it really reduces our ability to be brave in the face of uncertainty. So, one of the things you could start to ask yourself this year is, if you really want to change in your career, in your software development career, do you think that's going to happen without the discomfort of walking into fearful situations? Because I'm going to tell you right now, it's not. You need to just stop believing that. Stop believing that the perfect opportunity is going to come up for you. Stop believing that there's some course that you're going to take that's, going to solve all your problems, but you don't have to do some hard work, or you're not going to be uncomfortable. Stop believing that the promotion that you want is going to put you in a situation where you're not going to have some mistakes you might make. Again, I'm telling you this stuff not to get down on you, not to freak you out, to really help you, but you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to look at the situation you're in honestly if you're going to do something about it. The fourth thing I think we do as developers that I question if we enjoy being miserable, is the amount of escaping we do. Hey, I talked about this in, my video, Why Do So Many Programmers Lose Hope, which was kind of the first video that popped on my channel several years back. But whether it's smoking pot like I did, playing video games like many of us do, reading about new technology when really we've got work to do. We want to start a company, but we'd rather kind of goof around with things and complain about the industry than just get down to work and do it. We got to stop escaping from our circumstances. This is very related to the giving into fear I was just talking about. If you know that you're trapped in a job, let's say, that pays really, really well, and you're living in an expensive area of your country, and you've created a lifestyle for your family, yourself, your kids, that is not sustainable, because the only way you can make the money is to burn yourself out. You need to stop escaping from that. I had to do this 6 years ago, and you got to have a tough conversation with your family, with your wife, with your husband, with your kids, whatever, and tell them, I know you've been comfortable with how I've taken care of you up to this point. I love you. I will provide for you. But the way I'm doing it now is breaking me, and I can no longer do it. So we're going to be moving, or, I'm going to be taking a pay cut, or I'm going to be trying something new because, as men, and I know, 98.5 or whatever % of the people who watch this channel are men, and the women, if you're a woman, I super appreciate you here too. Don't hear me wrong about this. But, men inherently, we want to provide. We want to take care of the people in our family. We don't want to feel like we're mooching off everyone. But there's a fine line between, providing for someone and basically just draining all the energy and enjoyment out of your life to be able to say that you're a provider. And I think if you've gotten yourself, like I have at times, into a situation where the only way that you can actually move forward and actually provide for your family is to break yourself, you will break yourself. Talked all about that in my burnout episode. And clawing back from that, all this hard work you did to provide, all the savings, the retirement, everything that you thought was keeping you safe, you can lose it in an instant. Like I did. I lost everything and had to start over 6 years ago. So don't put off what you got to do. If you're escaping from a difficult situation, I don't care what it is. If you're spending too much on DoorDash, if your wife's out of control with the credit card, if your husband buys too many guitars, whatever it is, have that difficult conversation. Make that change. Stop accepting the misery and do something about it. And the fifth thing that I think keeps us as programmers stuck where we are, and man, not going to like hearing this, but this is probably one of the most important things that I hope you do hear from me today. It's pride. Okay. Our industry is predicated upon our mind as our most valuable asset. And as programmers, if you go on LinkedIn or anywhere, what are they selling you? You're going to get smart by learning this. Look how smart you are. Wouldn't you love to be the smart person? Wouldn't you love everybody to look up to you? The problem with that is when we're too proud and we're too confident in our own abilities and we refuse to get help, there's a limit to what we can do in our career. There are certain ceilings in this industry and in the world and in your life that you will never rise above unless you reach out to other people and get help. And it's really frustrating to me that some of you are leaving comments asking for help with things. And I'm telling you exactly what you need to do. And I'm telling you, not just like from an academic, hey, I heard this on a Huberman podcast, but like I've done this in my life. I've seen how this works, or I've helped other people with it and seen how it's worked for them. But you're challenging me on it. You don't think it'll work for you. Here's the thing. It may not, but you'll never know if you don't at least try. And I got to be really honest with you. And I tried to in my burnout video too. The more money I made and the higher title I got and the more proud I became of my job, the more foolish I became in my life, because I started to delude myself that I actually was much wiser than I really am. And that I actually knew how to, go forward more than I really did. And because I had so many more things I was now doing, I was influencing the company more, all these different things. I suddenly felt that I was equipped to do, honestly, a lot of things that I wasn't equipped to do. And so I developed blind spots. All of us have blind spots in our life. Look, me sitting here today at 47 years old, I have an incredible amount of blind spots. You probably see some of them every time you watch a video and go, yeah, he's not picking up on that. I get it. I'm not stupid. I have people from my church that tell me about it. I have people, friends of mine that I trust, but the key is when I went through my burnout 6 years ago, somewhat of a nervous breakdown almost, I finally got to a place where I was like, I can't do this on my own. And I think you may know if you've ever been an alcoholic or an addict, or someone who's been an alcoholic or an addict, there's like the 12-step AA type programs. I went through one. Now mine was, faith-based because I'm a Christian, but, doesn't matter. The main thing is the first step is admitting that your life has become unmanageable. And I want to tell you that you need to ask yourself, if you're struggling as a software developer, that's the most important question you can ask yourself if you really want to change and you really want to heal and you want to be a healthy software developer. Can you admit that your career has become unmanageable? I don't say this to insult you. And again, if you got a ton of pride, you're going to hear me say that and be like, F you, like, of course not. But for those of you out there who have finally gotten to the bottom of trying to do this all yourself, hey, I commend you. I really do, because it takes a lot of humility to finally admit, I'm actually a really good developer and I know I can get a lot done and I actually care about this job and I have an accomplished career, but something's not working out and I need help. I'm not trying to say this again, too, to sell you on my coaching services. I'd love to coach you if you're open to it and you need help, but there's a lot of people out there who can help you, therapists. You may or may not know the vast majority of people who come to me for career coaching, who are programmers or in the tech industry, already have therapists. That may or may not surprise you. It doesn't surprise me at all because they're in the mindset that they're ready to get help. So I hope this video today doesn't piss you off. If it does a little bit, hey, I can't control that. But as I always try to tell you, I say these things because I really believe in you. I believe your potential is so much more than what you're doing right now. But if you want to reach that potential, you have to get to a place where you get some help. You stop worrying about what the rest of the software development industry thinks about you and how people are going to challenge you. You may have to stand up for yourself and confront your boss, your peers, your family, your spouse, your parents, whoever it is that's standing in your way. And you got to stop escaping from the difficult feelings that you're having around fear if you really want to change. And if you're open to that and you're willing to stand up and actually really take your life into your hands and put some of it into maybe other people's hands to let them speak some truth and help you, but you're willing to admit that the way that your career's been going so far is not working, that is the beginning of everywhere else that your career can go. But if you remain on Reddit bitching, on, forums where people complain about the software industry, if you watch my videos and you use them as a venting session, hey, I'm happy to be here for you and have a community here for you where you can share your frustration. Don't hear me the wrong way here. I want you to feel comfortable if you got to say you're frustrated and complain. But much like I talked about in my burnout video, my wife, when she went through trauma and was trying to recover from it herself, she had a group of girlfriends that all had also been traumatized. And for a good, 5 or 6 years, being part of that community where they all had been traumatized was just what she felt like she needed. A bunch of people, hey, you've been through what I've been through, but here's the problem. None of them wanted to actually rise above it. None of them wanted to actually get out of being traumatized and move forward in their life and overcome it. And they basically had become identified with their misery and their trauma. And that's what I'm talking to you about in this episode, is to ask yourself, this industry can be really difficult. I'm not sugarcoating it. I really try not to. But if you've been traumatized by your boss, by layoffs, by the way, maybe your family has treated you, by the hours, by things you've done to yourself, yes, you need to find a way to heal from that. But you also need to not sit in a community of other programmers who love to bitch and exchange memes about how messed up it is. Hey, I love a funny meme, but there's a line you can cross where it's not so much about people understanding you anymore, and it's actually imprisoning you and preventing you from really doing anything different, healing, rising above it, and moving on with your life and really getting the things that you want out of your career and your life. So, are you struggling with any of this? Are you facing some really hard stuff in your life, in your career, that it just feels like it's impossible, feels like it's crippling? I want to encourage you today. Leave us some comments, but also be open to getting some help. if you need a therapist, get a therapist. Especially if you're, I know we all stress about money. If you can afford $100 a month for some subscription or whatever, cancel it. Go find a therapist. If you don't know what direction to go in your career, I'm here. I really am happy to help you. If you're struggling with coding exercises and stuff like that, go get a tech interview coach. Just learn the skills. They're out there. I don't do it, but there's tons of people that do it. You can learn that. You can get out. If you don't know how to market and brand yourself, you've had a job a really long time, you don't know what to do, I can help you with that. There's other people too. Obviously, I specialize on IT, but whatever it is, and if you're an addict like I was, attend some AA meetings. Find a local church that you can meet some people in and just go in and say, hey, I'm broken. I mean, that's what church is supposed to be. You may or may not know that. Is it's supposed to be a group of people that are comfortable with being broken and needing help, not like we're all virtuous in the shit. I mean, that may be some churches you were exposed to. I'll get off my horse here, but my point is, I'm just saying this year, you don't have to stay stuck. But I know sometimes it can feel impossible to even begin to move forward if you're feeling so overwhelmed by what I'm telling you and everything that's going on. And if you are, what I can really recommend is check out the video that I recorded on overwhelm, because I've got some really practical steps in that episode that will help you deal with that so that you can actually reduce a lot of that overwhelm. And maybe that'll help eliminate some of the stuff that you're doing that's getting in the way of even trying to make some of these changes, so you can lean into them, do some of these things, get over some of these things, and actually get back to being healthy in your career. Thanks.